Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we begin an in-depth journey into one of the most iconic, beloved, and historically rich coins in American numismatics, the Lincoln Wheat Penny, a classic piece of U.S. monetary history that first entered circulation in 1909 and quickly became a national symbol of change, remembrance, and craftsmanship, marking the first time in United States history that a real person, especially a president, appeared on circulating coinage, and this coin was none other than Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, introduced to honor the centennial celebration of his birth, representing an era of transformation as well as a shift in American coin design philosophy, as prior to 1909, it was considered taboo to put real individuals on money due to perceived associations with monarchy. But this began to change as the country matured and public admiration for Lincoln grew, especially after his role in preserving the Union during the Civil War and his tragic assassination, making him a figure worthy of national tribute and symbolizing unity, strength, and morality. The United States Mint commissioned Victor David Brenner, one of the most skilled sculptors and engravers of his era, to design the new 1-cent coin, and Brenner's deep admiration for Lincoln, inspired by reading biographies and studying photographs taken by Matthew Brady, led him to produce a design that would become timeless, with the obverse featuring a detailed portrait of Lincoln facing right, carefully modeled to show personality and realism, a major shift away from prior allegorical or symbolic designs, while the reverse showcased two graceful wheat ears, symbolizing prosperity and Americana, giving the coin its well-known name, the wheat penny or wheat cent. When production began on August 2, 1909, the Lincoln Wheat Penny instantly captured the public's attention, not only because of its beautiful design, but also due to the controversy surrounding the designer's initials, VDB, prominently displayed on the reverse at the bottom between the wheat stalks, which led to immediate public backlash as many critics argued the initials were too large and overly noticeable, giving the appearance of inappropriate self-promotion, causing the mint to quickly halt production and remove the initials during the first weeks of 1909, unknowingly creating one of the most famous small-cent rarities in American numismatics, the 1909 SVDB, a coin that would later become legendary among collectors due to its combination of low mintage, short production window, and massive historical significance. The early era of the Lincoln Wheat Penny lasted from 1909 through the 1910s, a period marked by adjustments, improvements, and minor design refinements as the mint worked to perfect Brenner's creation while balancing the demands of mass production and public acceptance, with coins minted at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco as the new design spread across the country, turning the wheat penny into a familiar piece of everyday life that circulated in shops, farms, factories, and railways across America, becoming a witness to World War I, major economic changes, and the evolving modern United States, while its bold portrait of Lincoln on the obverse served as a constant reminder of the nation's ideals. The coin's composition remained 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc throughout most of its wheat era, giving it a distinctive color and durability that contributed to its long lifespan in circulation, and many early wheat pennies still survive today, carrying wear patterns that reflect decades of use by millions of hands, making each surviving example a miniature piece of American history, while the reverse's wheat design continued to symbolize nourishment and national productivity, concepts especially meaningful as the U.S. faced major agricultural and industrial shifts during the early 20th century. As the Lincoln Wheat Penny entered the 1920s and 1930s, it witnessed the dramatic transformation of the nation through the Roaring Twenties, the rise of mass media culture, and the devastating economic crash of 1929 leading into the Great Depression, which heavily impacted U.S. minting policies, mintage quantities, and public coin usage patterns, with certain dates from the 1920s and early 1930s later becoming semi-key or key dates due to historically low mintages driven by financial hardship across the country, and through these decades, the wheat penny remained America's workhorse cent, circulating everywhere and becoming one of the most collected coins in U.S. history due to its sentimental value, availability, and beautiful design. Meanwhile, the design itself remained unchanged until later major events would force the mint to consider alterations and composition changes, especially when global conflict and metal shortages began affecting the availability of copper, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic shifts in the coin's long and storied timeline, leading into the next major chapter of the Lincoln cent's evolution. As the Lincoln Wheat Penny moved into the 1940s, the United States found itself entering World War II, and with this massive global conflict came intense pressure on metal resources, especially copper, which was essential for producing ammunition, wiring, communication equipment, and countless military components, forcing the U.S. Mint to rethink the composition of the cent after decades of using 95% copper. This crisis resulted in one of the most dramatic and famous changes in American coinage history, The creation of the 1943 steel cent, a temporary emergency issue that replaced the traditional copper-based composition with zinc-coated steel, giving the coin a shiny silver-like appearance that looked more like a dime than a penny, an experiment born out of necessity as the government sought every possible way to conserve copper for war use, and although these steel cents served their purpose, they came with numerous problems such as rusting, discoloration, and the ability to stick to magnets due to their steel core, while also being easily confused with dimes in circulation, leading the mint to quickly abandon the steel composition after 1943 and return to copper-based alloy in 1944. However, even this post-war composition was unique because instead of fresh copper, the mint reused melted-down wartime shell casings collected from military training grounds, creating the 1944, 1945, and 1946 shell case cents, which carried powerful symbolic value since the very metal once used in weapons was now transformed into everyday money that fueled America's economic recovery after the war. During the late 1940s and 1950s, the Lincoln Wheat Penny continued to circulate heavily as the United States entered an era of prosperity marked by suburban growth, booming industries, and rapid technological advancements. And the wheat penny remained the backbone of small transactions from vending machines to grocery stores, becoming a pocket-sized reminder of the nation's shifting economic landscape. While mintage numbers grew dramatically due to increasing population and demand for circulating coinage, resulting in billions of wheat pennies being produced across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, yet despite the high mintages, the coin maintained its iconic design, with Lincoln's portrait on the obverse remaining unchanged and the reverse wheat stalks continuing to symbolize strength and the country's agricultural roots. Throughout these years, subtle improvements were made to production quality, strike sharpness, and relief details as the mint refined its machinery, ensuring that Lincoln's portrait appeared crisp and well-defined even in years of mass production, while some mid-century dates and mint marks still produced notable varieties such as repunched mint marks and doubled dies that collectors continue to seek today. As the 1950s drew to a close, the wheat penny had already become a beloved collectible among Americans of all ages, with children often searching through pocket change to fill their penny boards and coin albums that were widely sold in hobby shops, sparking a new generation of collectors who saw the wheat penny not just as money but as a small, accessible piece of national heritage, and by 1958, it had become clear that the beloved wheat reverse, in use since 1909, was approaching the end of its historic run, as the mint prepared to introduce a brand new reverse design in 1959 featuring the Lincoln Memorial, timed to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, marking the end of the wheat penny era and transitioning into a new chapter of American coinage history. Yet the legacy of the wheat design has remained strong ever since, with collectors continuing to treasure wheat pennies for their historical importance, aesthetic beauty, and the fascinating stories behind their creation, circulation, and evolution across 5 transformative decades of American life. When we begin exploring the rarities, errors, and key dates of the Lincoln Wheat Penny series, we enter a world where small details, tiny variations, and minting mistakes can transform a simple 1-cent coin into a treasure worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what makes the Wheat Penny series so extraordinary is the sheer range of collectible opportunities. From early low mintage keys to dramatic double-die varieties and unusual production errors that occurred across more than 50 years of manufacturing, making the Lincoln Wheat Penny one of the richest and most complex coin series in American history, starting with the legendary 1909 SVDB, unquestionably the most iconic key date of the entire set, produced during the first year of issue when designer Victor David Brenner's initials, VDB, were placed prominently at the bottom of the reverse, sparking public criticism that the initials were too bold and too much like an artist's signature, leading the mint to remove them almost immediately, and because the San Francisco Mint had only struck 484,000 pieces before the initials were deleted, the coin became instantly scarce, and today a high-grade example can bring anywhere from several $1,000s to well over $50,000 depending on its condition, with the 1909 S without VDB also considered rare but slightly more available, while the 1909 PVDB remains a collector favorite due to its strong design details and first-year significance, though it was produced in far larger numbers. Moving forward, the 1914 D penny stands as another pillar of rarity with its mintage of only 1.1 million, making it extremely hard to find in well-preserved condition because wheat pennies of this era circulated heavily for decades, and high-grade examples are incredibly valuable, with sharp specimens selling for 5 figures. And collectors must be cautious because many counterfeiters attempt to alter common 1914 Philadelphia pennies by adding a fake D mint mark, making authentication critical. The 1922 No D is a unique and dramatic variety created by the Denver Mint during a year when Denver was the only mint producing cents, and due to extreme die wear and poor striking pressure, some examples emerged without a visible mint mark, creating the famous no-D variety that collectors consider a key rarity, with strong strike examples bringing significant premiums. Entering the 1930s brings us to one of the most famous double die errors in American numismatics, the 1936 double die, a scarce and visually striking variety that shows strong doubling on the obverse, especially around the date and motto, though it is overshadowed by what would become the most legendary Lincoln cent variety of all time, the 1955 Doubled Die Obverse, the coin that introduced millions of Americans to the concept of mint errors when newspapers and magazines reported people spotting them in pocket change, featuring some of the boldest doubling ever seen. On a U.S. coin, with clear doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date itself, so dramatic that even casual observers can recognize it instantly, and high-grade versions of this famous variety can exceed tens of thousands of dollars at auction, with circulated examples also commanding strong prices because collectors value its unmistakable appearance. And yet, the Wheat Penny series contains many other important error varieties, such as the 1944 steel cent, a rare mistake caused when leftover steel planchets from 1943 were accidentally struck with 1944 dies, creating an ultra-rare transitional error that is worth six figures, and its opposite error, the 1943 copper cent, created when a few copper planchets from 1942 remained lodged in machinery and were struck with 1943 dies, producing one of the most expensive U.S. pennies ever known, with documented sales exceeding $1 million for high-grade certified specimens, making it a dream coin for collectors worldwide. Additional rare varieties include the 1925 D weak D, the 1934 double die, the 1917 Double Die Obverse, the 1924 D semi-key, and the 1931 S low mintage issue, all of which contribute to the rich and varied collecting landscape of the series. And the demand for these coins has remained incredibly strong because the wheat penny is one of the most widely collected coins in the United States, often serving as the starting point for new collectors who later develop a lifelong passion for numismatics, while advanced collectors focus on finding high-grade examples, full red specimens, or rare varieties certified by major grading companies. As we study these rarities and errors, it becomes clear that the Lincoln Wheat Penny is not just a piece of currency but a deep historical field filled with excitement, surprises, and discoveries waiting in old jars, inherited collections, and circulation finds, which is why it remains one of the most popular and fascinating coin series of all time, drawing collectors back again and again to the thrill of the hunt and the possibility that even a simple penny might hold extraordinary hidden value. As we continue deeper into the world of Lincoln Wheat Penny rarities, errors, and high-value dates, the story becomes even more intense because each decade of the series introduced its own unique challenges, production quirks, metal shortages, upgraded machines, worn dies, planchet imperfections, and unexpected minting accidents that today create some of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. And collectors across the world study these subtle variations with incredible passion, starting with the years of World War I, when the mint struggled to keep up with metal demand and quality control often suffered, resulting in poorly struck coins that today are difficult to find in high grades, making early teens and 20s specimens unusually valuable when preserved well. For example, the 1916 Doubled Die Obverse, a lesser-known but highly respected rarity, displays clear doubling especially around the date and motto and remains tremendously scarce, while the 1917 Double Die is more dramatic and features bold doubling along Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions, creating a desirable variety that advanced collectors seek aggressively. As the 1920s progressed, economic pressure and heavy coin circulation meant that wheat pennies were often used until they were nearly smooth, leaving high-grade survivors extremely rare, especially for Denver and San Francisco issues such as the 1920S, 1923S, and 1924D, all of which command strong price premiums in mint state grades due to their poor striking quality and limited survival numbers. The 1926 S stands as one of the hardest coins to find in high grade because most examples were struck weakly, leaving mushy details on Lincoln's beard, hair, and clothing, and collectors have spent decades searching for fully struck examples with sharp details, pushing its value to remarkable levels when well preserved. And then came the 1930s, a decade of innovation and renewed interest in coinage, producing famous errors like the 1936 Double Die Obverse, available in several varieties but only one truly dramatic version with bold doubling that remains a favorite among error collectors, while the 1931 S, with its mintage of only 866,000, became instantly recognized as a key date, though saved in relatively large numbers by collectors of the time, making high-grade examples common but circulated ones still scarce. and the 1940s brought some of the most dramatic and valuable wheat penny errors ever known. Starting with the famous 1943 transitional copper cent, which should have been struck only in steel-coated zinc due to wartime metal shortages, but a few leftover copper planchets remained in the minting machinery and were accidentally struck, creating what would become one of the most legendary error coins in the world, with only a few dozen genuine examples known and prices reaching extraordinary levels. While the opposite error, the 1944 steel cent, created when leftover steel planchets were mistakenly used for the New Year's production, resulted in another highly valuable rarity worth tens of thousands to six figures depending on grade, and both coins stand today as iconic and highly coveted pieces of American minting history. In addition, the 1946 S/D re-punched mint mark is a variety that fascinates collectors because it represents the transitional period when the mint was experimenting with changing die punch systems, resulting in overlapped letters that appear under magnification, and these RPM, re-punched mint mark, varieties occur throughout the series, particularly in the 1950s, a decade famous for dramatic doubling and mispunch varieties such as the 1951 DD/S and numerous die cracks, die chips, cuds, and lamination errors that collectors love, because they show the mechanical imperfections of the era's minting equipment. But no discussion of wheat penny errors would be complete without revisiting the 1955 Doubled Die Obverse, a coin so boldly doubled that its appearance is instantly recognizable to even novice collectors, with dramatic doubling in inscriptions that makes it one of the most famous error coins in the world, and although heavily publicized, most circulated examples entered the hobby accidentally through cigarette vending machines, making the discovery story even more iconic, and closing the wheat penny era, the 1958 Double Die Obverse, far rarer than the 1955 but much less widely known, stands as one of the ultimate modern rarities with only 2 or 3 confirmed examples, making it a near unobtainable treasure of the series, while the final wheat penny years of 1956, 1957, and 1958 also contain multiple small repunched mint mark and die variety errors that dedicated collectors still hunt today. And through all this, the Lincoln Wheat Penny series demonstrates why it continues to dominate the collecting world, because no other coin combines everyday accessibility with such extreme rarity potential, allowing people to discover life-changing finds in old coffee cans, rolls of change, inherited collections, or forgotten piggy banks. And for more than a century, the thrill of finding a rare penny has captured the imagination of millions, turning a simple copper coin into one of the most exciting treasure hunts in American history. As we enter the final and deepest chapter of the Lincoln Wheat Penny's journey, the story becomes even more fascinating because now we move beyond key dates and famous errors and begin exploring the broader world of how this coin evolved, how its design influenced millions of collectors, how its legacy shaped American numismatics, and how its surviving population continues to shift and change as new discoveries emerge from old collections, forgotten bank vaults, estate sales, sealed rolls, dusty cigar boxes, and long-lost hoards that have remained untouched for decades. And what makes the Lincoln Wheat Penny truly special is that it is not just a coin but a timeline of American history, reflecting every year from 1909 through 1958 with subtle changes in minting technology, metal composition, die preparation techniques, and artistic style, each year telling its own quiet story. Like the 1909 introduction, which captured the nation's imagination with the first portrait of a real historical figure on circulating U.S. coinage, paired with Brenner's distinctive wheat ear reverse that symbolized prosperity, unity, and the agricultural foundation of America, a design so simple yet meaningful that it remained unchanged for half a century. And as the decades passed, the wheat penny witnessed the Great Depression, World War II, economic recoveries, political shifts, industrial expansions, and evolving minting standards, all while circulating quietly through the pockets of everyday Americans, from factory workers to farmers to soldiers, creating a cultural bond that still resonates with collectors today because nearly every American over the age of 40 remembers sifting through pocket change or saving pennies in jars hoping to find a 1909 SVDB or 1914 D or a double die variety. And what makes this coin exceptional is that even after more than 100 years, new varieties are still discovered by careful collectors, including subtle double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, and transitional planchet anomalies that were previously unnoticed due to the sheer volume of wheat pennies struck over half a century. Meanwhile, the grading industry has elevated the value and importance of high-grade specimens, with organizations like PCGS and NGC certifying coins based on strike quality, luster, color designation, red, red-brown, brown, and die state. And collectors obsess over finding full red examples from early dates because copper darkens quickly and few early wheat pennies survived with their original fiery mint red brilliance, making RD-designated coins from the 1910s and 1920s extremely valuable and visually stunning, while toned examples with deep rainbow hues, electric blues, autumn gold, or iridescent magenta patterns have created their own specialist market where eye appeal becomes just as important as rarity itself. And as more collectors submit wheat pennies for grading, population reports adjust, revealing which dates are genuinely rare in high grade and which were previously underestimated, reshaping the market over time, especially for semi-key issues like the 1924 D, 1925 S, 1931 S, and high-grade 1930s Philadelphia strikes, all of which have seen upward value trends due to low survival rates. In addition, sealed bank-wrapped rolls from the 1940s and 1950s occasionally surface, revealing bright red gems that have been preserved untouched since the day they left the mint, creating excitement as collectors hope to uncover double die varieties, RPMs, or perfectly struck specimens that could rank among the finest known examples. And beyond rarity and grading lies the emotional side of the Wheat Penny series, because many collectors remember receiving these pennies from grandparents or parents, forming sentimental attachments that keep the series alive generation after generation. And the Wheat Penny remains one of the most popular entry points for new collectors because it is both affordable and full of monumental discoveries, offering the thrill of hunting for key dates and errors while also providing historical richness and aesthetic charm. And as numismatists continue their search, the Wheat Penny thrives in an ecosystem of hobbyists who build full date and mint mark sets, variety sets, error collections, die state sets, and color designation sets, making the coin endlessly customizable and appealing to collectors of every skill level. And with each passing year, the Lincoln Wheat Penny becomes even more cherished because it stands not only as a piece of currency but as a bridge to the past, a tangible connection to the early 20th century, a symbol of American artistry, and a treasure that continues to inspire passion, research, discovery, and fascination throughout the world of numismatics. And as we reach the final stretch of this deep journey into the world of the Lincoln Wheat Penny, the story expands even further into the continued legacy, the modern discoveries, the shifting values, and the reasons why collectors across generations remain obsessed with this iconic coin, because even though the Wheat Penny stopped being produced in 1958, the fascination surrounding it has only grown stronger over the decades as researchers uncover new varieties, collectors submit old rolls for grading, and treasure hunters keep finding rare pieces hidden away in basements, attics, forgotten jars, and antique shops, each new discovery breathing fresh excitement into a coin series that refuses to fade into history. And one of the most fascinating aspects of the Wheat Penny is how its value continues to evolve, driven not just by rarity but by condition, eye appeal, color quality, strike sharpness, and the growing influence of population reports which reveal how few examples survive at the highest levels, making certain dates like the 1926 S, 1934, 1924 D, and early San Francisco issues increasingly valuable in mint state because time has proven that these coins simply did not survive well, and while thousands of circulated examples exist, only a tiny handful remain in pristine condition with sharp details and original luster. And that scarcity fuels intense competition among collectors who want to complete top-ranking registry sets, pushing auctions to record levels and elevating Wheat Pennies from pocket change to elite numismatic treasures. And this trend is even more visible with spectacular color-designated coins, where natural rainbow toning, deep reds, blazing golds, or luminescent blues turn an ordinary penny into a piece of art, and collectors pay extraordinary premiums for these unique examples because each toned Wheat Penny is truly one of a kind, shaped by decades of storage conditions, humidity, air elements, and aging metal chemistry that cannot be replicated, making them miniature masterpieces of time. And then there is the ever-growing world of variety collecting, where specialists study tiny details like repunched mint marks, die scratches, die cracks, misaligned dies, and subtle doubling to document new discoveries, creating an endless hunt for hidden gems within a series millions of people thought they already knew completely. And even today, new RPMs and minor doubled dies are being added to official catalogs, proving the Wheat Penny still holds secrets more than a century after its introduction. And while some collectors focus purely on value, others cherish the historical connection each Wheat Penny represents, because these coins passed through the hands of people who lived through world wars, economic struggles, industrial revolutions, and cultural transformations, and every coin carries invisible stories of the pockets it traveled through, making the Wheat Penny not just a collectible item but a living artifact of American life. And despite being one of the most widely collected coins in the world, the Wheat Penny still surprises experts, still breaks auction records, and still inspires new collectors every day, because the potential of finding a valuable rarity in everyday change, even today, adds an element of adventure that no modern coin can match. and as long as people continue searching rolls, examining jars, buying old collections, and studying numismatic history, the Lincoln Wheat Penny will remain one of the most beloved and exciting series ever minted in the United States, a coin that turned ordinary copper into a symbol of discovery, nostalgia, knowledge, and treasure hunting, and its legacy will continue growing as long as collectors keep the flame alive, appreciating each tiny detail, each vintage flaw, each historical nuance, and each rare gem waiting to be found, making the Lincoln Wheat Penny not just a coin but a lifelong journey for millions who chase the thrill of uncovering something extraordinary hidden in the most unexpected places. And with that, we close this massive exploration into one of the greatest coin series in American history, a masterpiece born in 1909 that continues to inspire passion, dedication, and wonder even today, reminding us that history often lives in the smallest objects we overlook every day, the ones that turn out to carry stories bigger than anyone could imagine, and the Lincoln Wheat Penny will forever remain a shining example of that truth, loved by collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world, and its legacy will remain unbroken for generations to come, keeping the excitement alive every time someone picks up a penny and wonders what secrets it might hold. Thanks for watching.